The stock of the day is brought to you by IG, Australia's #1 CFD provider. With over 17,000 markets and extended trading hours, turn US earnings season volatility into opportunity. Get started at IG.com.
And our stock of the day is Myer. In fact, might cover two stocks here because it is acquiring Premier Investments, apparel brands business in Australia and New Zealand for $956 million. Those brands include Just Jeans, JJ's, Jackie E, and Premier. Meanwhile, that will focus then on its Peter Alexander and Smiggle brands. And Premier Chairman Solomon Lew will join the board of Myer as a non-executive director, and he'll become the top shareholder with close to 27% stake in the retailer. And so I think we're going to get a view then on both those. Myer taking a bit of a dip, but Premier up some 10% off the back of that news, Francesco. Now, of course, it's all part of the strategy to turn Myer around, which has struggled, was regarded as once a premium brand, but of course, who shops at department stores anymore? Well, this is part of it, isn't it? Their strategy, yeah. They want to bring these brands in-house to turn that business around.
I suppose when you look at other department stores, a bit like David Jones, they have it's a department store, but they've got brands within it, and I think Myer does something similar, and they probably continue to do that. It's an interesting place. Solly was, I think, on the board and chairman of Coles Myer back in '85, I think it was. This goes back a fair way, and I suppose he's been trying to get back in touch with Myer or get some sort of ownership of Myer for a number of years now. He will be the largest shareholder of Myer after the deal's cut because there's going to be some share transfers. I'm not sure, and I haven't, we haven't got any research at the moment at odds on, sort of how it may dilute existing shareholders and so forth. But the way the market moves, it generally has a good idea, and we can see that Premier Investments is probably going to be the beneficiary of all this. The other interesting twist to it is also that over the last couple of days we've seen Mosaic's brands go into voluntary administration. I wonder if this is, and this has probably been going on for some time, but it might be an opportunity for Solly to go, well, here's some brands that we might be able to pick up cheap as well. So, that might have a little bit of a reflection on Premier's share price this morning, as well as, Myer buying the brands off Premier. We don't have a recommendation on Myer, but I think Myer's probably a little bit exy at these levels, and I probably wouldn't be buying it as them being the acquirer. And after today, Premier was trading on probably market PEs, probably fair value, but after today it's probably looking a bit expensive. So there might be a little bit more in the share price, but I wouldn't be rushing in to buy it at this stage. But it does look interesting for Premier going forward. Currently, I think Solly's a major shareholder of Premier of about 45% at least. So that'll probably make him about a 30%, once all the stock transfers, 30 to 40% shareholder of Myer as well. Interesting. So
you'd hold both in, would you?
I'd hold Premier, and Myer be a hold as well, but I wouldn't be going out and buying it because of the some people like to buy because of the corporate transactions, unless you get in before it. It's a bit hard then because all the good gains in today.
So this deal aside, more broadly, what are you seeing in that retail space at the moment then?
Personally, I haven't really followed this space because for investors, with rates where they are and gone up and how the consumer is, I've sort of avoided this space and actually even reduced exposure to discretionary spending through, we were a big shareholder of JB Hi-Fi, but we've reduced that, if not removed it altogether from portfolios. So I'm probably more focused on the non-discretionary, so the Woolies, the Endeavours of the group, of that end of the consumer.
Yep. Mark?
Well, I think it's actually they're diametrically opposite businesses. Premier and Solly Lew, who's a brilliant retailer, you got to give him that. That's been a very, very successful business, and Myer has been a dog for a very long time. And the relationship with Solly and Myer, though, I think has been it's a very important part of his business because he sells a lot of product into, I think, for their own brands and so on. So he's always tried to exhibit a significant influence on what Myer does, and has obviously been very unhappy at lots of stages, just what you read. So obviously he thinks he can get value out of it. Obviously he wouldn't do it. But if you just look at the history of it, 10 years, Premier was $9.80 10 years ago. It's now $34.80. So that's like three times over the last 10 years. Myer was $1.51 10 years ago. Now it's 94 cents. So, there's dividends as well. But, bottom line is that's about the equivalent performance. And if you go further back, interestingly, it's 1990 when Premier listed was $1.22, now 34. Myer was $3.44 in 2010, which is when they listed on the split. So Myer's gone down. It's less than 30% of what it was. If you've been a long-term shareholder, you've lost money. So we would have touched Myer for a long time. I think it's been in long-term decline, and that's department stores generally. It's tough business. However, I was just in London last week, and Harrods was absolutely chock-a-block, and they've got about thousands of staff.
Right, you
which is the opposite.
can't really compare the two, can you?
I know, but it's not.
Walk into Myers and you struggle to get
You should account for it.
Yeah.
And then if you do want to buy something, it's hard to find
someone to
But
help you.
also it's those low-end brands too, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, and we'll go to my point of, why do they still exist, those department stores, particularly if they're in malls, where you're getting all that variety anyway?
Yeah. Well, I think they're getting weaker and weaker because you also had the fact of, like, I just read a history on Louis Vuitton and how they basically drove the whole store within a store concept. They actually came along to the Harrods of the world and David Jones and said, we're not selling you our stuff anymore. We'll rent some space and we're going to run it ourselves. And then what they did is they captured the lion's share of the revenue right through the whole chain. It's quite brilliant.
Yeah.
It's Arnault, who's the richest man in the world now, by the way. Bernard Arnault, who
I think
he's
just lost that title again.
Oh, okay, well, he's up there, though.
The shares have come off.
Okay, anyway, so interestingly, that was one of the things that undermined the success of the department stores, because that's where you used to go to buy the prestigious stuff. Whereas now, all those brands they have their own stores everywhere, and the ones they have in the department stores, all the department stores getting rent.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's all these things have weakened it. I just don't see the use of them anymore.
Yeah. The only thing positive I could see out of this is that Solly goes onto the board of Myer.
Yeah.
And he's a very, as you mentioned, very good retailer. Yeah. So I'm sure he has some ideas about how to
He's
rejuvenate.
been dying to do this, though. He's the key agitator at Myer,
right.
isn't he?
That's right. That's the only redeeming aspect of it.
Right.
And I'm sure it's going to be good for Premier, but I wouldn't own Myer.
All right. So if you've ridden it all this way, you've been a long-term holder of Myer, would you sell it?
Yeah. I wouldn't. I can't even say I would.
Well, I disagree with that slightly, because if he can turn Myer around with the brands and so forth, then there might be some upside in that. But I'd wait for the dust to settle first.
Well,
and
Myer's
see how
not.
it all
The
comes
thing
out.
is, at the moment on the earnings, Myer's expensive anyway.
Yes.
That's the other side.
Yes.
So it's not like it's cheap.
Which is, I'm saying, wait a bit, see where the share price goes in the shorter term, and there's opportunity there, I think, but maybe not at this price.
Yeah.
And Premier's share price rally, I think, unless you were in there a week ago, you missed the boat. So.
Myer's on a 16 PE.
Yes. Yeah.
So and its earnings growth's been good the
Premier's
last
on
year.
about 20, so
Yeah.
that's probably fair. Well, 20 after the share price rise today.
Yeah.
So what would you do with Premier?
If I had it, I'd keep it. I mean, I wouldn't buy it though. I think it's too expensive.
Okay.
I'm with Francesco on that one.
Yeah.
But I've never owned Premier, but it's definitely right up there with JB and the best retailers. It's often had a premium to it that I can't justify.
Yeah, and there's two brands left in it. So what does that mean? And that's where I'm saying that with Mosaic, going into administration, there might be some opportunities there for Lou to go, well, we can pick up Katie's very cheap, we can pick up Rivers cheap, and you know what he's like at rebuilding these retail businesses.
Well, I think he's looking for a vehicle, particularly Peter Alexander and Smiggle.
Well, he's looking to divest that anyway. Yeah.
All right, so there we go.
Back
Two
the man,
stocks.
though, if you're going to do it, rather than the Myer
100%.
board.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's essentially a hold there for Premier, whereas Myer, Francesco would hold it, but Mark just
I can't say it's
there at
because
all.
I never would have bought it. So.
Yeah.
All right, that is our stock of the day.
The stock of the day was brought to you by IG. Turn volatility into opportunity this US earnings season with extended trading hours on over 110 key US shares. Get started at IG.com.